Welcome to the Root of It All podcast with Tree, where you will learn new habits for human betterment. We talk about all things related to personal growth, and everything is on the table. Each episode will explore different topics like self-care, mindfulness, goal setting, and more, with a focus on practical tips and actionable advice you can start implementing in your life today. Our goal is to help you become the best version of yourself and live a more meaningful life. So grab a drink, cozy up, take your dog for a walk, or go for a drive. Join us for some fun and meaningful conversations with some amazing humans. Let's grow together.
So hello, everybody. I almost said good morning, but it's the afternoon. And today's an exciting day. So I have Susan Crossman here, and she has been helping me out with writing a book. Some of you know that this is sort of part of what I'm doing, and some people don't. So that's awesome. And thank you so much. She's from Crossman Communications. She's an author, she's a coach, she's an editor. What do you not do? I don't know. But you've been helping me out immensely. So thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, Tree, it's so lovely to be here. Thank you for including me.
hmm And I'm excited about these themes of topics that we're going to chat about too, that so many people are going to be able to relate to. So let's just jump right in and rip the Band-Aid off, and we're going to start talking about fear, because I think fear is a huge thing of why people stop themselves from writing a book or stop themselves from writing in general, whether it's a blog, whether it's even social media posts, I find. So teach people about some experiences that you've had with some authors that you've been trying to help out, or anybody at all.
Oh, sure. Well, I can start with me if that might be
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
I'm now the traditionally published author of 5 fiction and nonfiction books. But when I look back to when I was working on that first book, I was beset by fears. I'm trained as a professional writer. Like my early career, for, well, over a decade, I worked in national and international publication offices, editorial offices. I had amazing experiences. I was trained by really tough people who had high expectations of writing and what we do with language and what you don't do with language. I had great experience. And my big dream had been to write a book. I mean, writer, book, kind of
Mhm.
makes sense. And it took me many years to work up the courage to actually claim that dream. So there's fear number one. Like, am I really good enough to become an author? Is kind of
Mhm.
what I was struggling with. And I see that a lot in a lot of my clients. There's a lot of insecurity about our writing skills to begin with. And I had no evidence that I was a bad writer. In fact, I managed to support myself really well with a lot of um, accreditation around my writing. But there's something about becoming an author that really stands up and scares us like the boogeyman in the closet when you're kids, you know. But I did start that book, and fear kept me from finishing it for 13 years, is how long it took me to write my first book. It was imposter syndrome. Who am I to write a book? Who's going to read this anyway? What if I do it wrong? You know,
Mhm.
there's that big fear of doing it wrong, and a lot of childhood programming, I'm sure, comes into play for all of us. But it finally actually what got me over that big fear was the death of my husband at the time. And he'd
Mhm.
been my biggest cheerleader. But when he passed away, I had to have a huge reconfiguration of my entire life. I had to go back to work to support my family full time, and I had this kind of orphan dream sitting there of writing a book and becoming published. And I realized that the clock's ticking, and I didn't know if I was going to die before I could find out if I could finish this book and become a published author. And that's really what galvanized me into action. I thought, nope, I am not going to die without finding out whether I can get published. And so I did. I hired a couple of editors and got the book done. And lo and behold, it was the start of a magical new life for me. And so I really encourage anybody who has that fear of writing a book to recognize that it's not real. There's nothing bad can
Mhm.
happen to you from writing a book, really.
Well, and the interesting thing is that sometimes, well, actually, all the times, all humans, we are always making up stuff in our head. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting when even we have somebody that's advocating for us, and sometimes it's tons of people advocating for us, but yet we're still believing what's going on in our head, which is the complete opposite of what is the truth. Then the
Yeah.
truth, well, and I want to talk about truth for a second, because I mean, I have a very busy hypnosis clinic, as you know,
Yeah.
and it's interesting just the things that people are choosing to believe. And everybody believes something. And when you look at information is really just concepts that are out there. And
Mm.
then we choose to believe what concepts that we want to believe. So when we bring it back to writing a book or doing a blog post or writing writing a blog or writing anything, that if we're choosing to believe something that isn't aligned with our goals, then it's so important that we sort of choose a belief that aligns with exactly what it is that we want to achieve as we go forward. And I'm not even sure if I described that exactly, but it sounded okay in my head. But
Yeah,
the
I get it.
yeah.
You want to, well, yeah, because we have complete control over what we believe.
Hmm.
And since we do have control over what we believe, we might as well consciously believe the things that are going to support us to reach our goals, to reach the dream life that we all want to create for ourselves. So I love what that you just said that.
Well, and to dive a little bit deeper into that, this is interesting. This came up actually, I think last night or a couple days ago with a client, that the the filters that we have as humans, those filters are created, and filters are more like strategies of how it is that we view the world around us. So it's our belief systems, it's our mood or attitude around different things, and those are built to actually protect us as we're growing up. So, say for example, somebody was brought up with parents that were very absent. So all of a sudden, they become their own worst critic. Or the opposite of that, people that were brought up with their parents extremely active, or sort of, I guess, I don't know if the term is helicopter parent, or they're always doing something for their child, then their filter growing up when they become an adult is this right or wrong? So they have this backtrack in their head of, am I doing this right or wrong? Which is the criticism from a parent. Whereas somebody without the guidance or didn't have parents that were around, they're their own worst critic growing up. So when these things, so going back to somebody writing a book or um, a post on social media or writing a blog, that their filter is going through criticizing themselves and going through that filter, or is this right or wrong? And generally, I'm sure there's more than just those two categories, but those are the two most predominant ones that show up when I'm working with clients. And so it's interesting. So for you, guiding people through completion of a book, right, which you're doing for me, which I'm super excited about. And how would you like, what is the main top three pieces of advice that you would give somebody so that they can actually move through and sort of break that seal to get the momentum, to get the rhythm to what it is that they want to do?
This leads me into my favorite territory.
Love it.
Thank you. So this gets into my philosophy a little bit about
Mhm.
becoming an author and working on a book, and you exemplify this so beautifully, Tree, in the book that you're writing. Is that I believe that if you've heard that siren call of I think I'm going to write a book, you get that knowing that yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I don't know if I should, or I don't know if I've never thought of myself as a writer, whatever the little voice in the head is saying. If you've heard that little voice, to me, that is a message from the divine that is saying to you, you're going to write a book. And you are the perfect funnel for the wisdom that you are bringing through in your book. Like there's nobody else on the planet Tree that can write your book. You are a perfect energetic frequency match for the book that you are writing. I've written 5 books, but I can't write your book. No one
Mhm.
else can, because you have been tailor made by life to be the only person who can write that book. So if you don't write that book, it is not going to get written.
Mhm.
Sum total, it won't happen. It will
It's like
not be.
yeah, it's like an injustice to the human race if people don't get to read the words that you
Totally.
want to write. Yeah, yeah.
It is. I'm getting goosebumps hearing you say that, because it's like that information is needed, or it wouldn't be being called through you onto the planet right now. And so if you don't keep going and bring it to completion, which I know you are, but that's not a question. But for a lot of people, they get stuck by insecurity and imposter
Mhm.
syndrome and all those little programs in our head. But please just know that that book is meant to be, and you are meant to be the author. And so you are doing a disservice to humanity by not contributing that little piece that you're here to contribute. So
Mhm.
it's a bit of a paradigm shift for a lot of people, because a lot of people get stuck in the ego aspect of me being a great author. Oh, here I am. I'm going to be a great author. Well, yeah, and I had that too. I remember as a single widowed mom, when my husband had passed away, I had 2 little kids to raise, and I went back to work, and I had a disabled mom, and very, very, very busy life. And
Mhm.
one of the things that kind of got in my way was I was so worried that once I became a published author, I was going to be chased by the paparazzi. And how was I ever going to manage to be a big celebrity superstar of my famous Canadian novel, and parent my children and run my business? Like I just got so worried about it. Well, that doesn't happen for most of us. But
Mhm.
that was, again, back to the stories we make up,
Mhm.
which was a fear that I had. And it was not the truth, because I had no way of knowing what happens after you become published. Like, I had no experience to judge that by. So, yeah, I guess that's the second invitation I would make, is to not worry about anything, because once that book is published, it goes out into the world. It has its own energetic frequency. It is here to do a job, and it'll get on and do its job. You need to support it and promote it and market it,
Mhm.
and usually we want that book to support our business in some way. And I would say the same thing for blog post writing and social media writing. The
Mhm.
same kind of stories creep up with what we share publicly in the public domain online. Like,
And I just want to inject one thing in there that
yeah.
looping back to the fear, the fact that people would worry, like even you were worrying about like, oh my gosh, the paparazzi. And I love that. I want to say too that people that are just listening to this, like the theatrics of her when she's explaining that with the back of her forehead the back of her hand on her forehead, like the woe is me, like, oh my gosh, the paparazzi is gonna get me. Like that us as humans, like we worry about the craziest things that would never
Yeah.
happen. And it's so fascinating the things that people worry about. So we all want to really make sure that we're grounded and that we're being realistic when we're making up things in our mind. Because if we're not realistic, then we're holding ourselves back from invisible fences that are not there. So, because that was an invisible fence that you were just like, this paparazzi, they're gonna come and get me. Oh my gosh.
And where did I get that? Like, I don't even know.
Well, it stems from fear, right?
Yeah,
Let's
there
make up
you
stuff
go.
that could potentially that because I'm in fear, let's make up stuff that supports the fear. And that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a bit of victimization in there too, a little
mhm.
victim mentality. The ego does amazing things to keep us from achieving our destiny.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would be the third one? So you did two. What would be the third one?
The third one would be to keep taking action towards
Mm,
your goal, regardless of how you feel about it, regardless of whether you think it's a good idea or not a good idea. Keep moving forward. And writing a
mhm,
book can take a 13-year period. It doesn't
mhm,
doesn't have to. For most of my clients, it takes significantly less time than that. And I have written a book in 6 months, start to finish. So now that I know how to manage myself in the context of book writing.
mm,
I have a book writing skill set, and I guess that's part of keep taking action. and actually maybe some of your listeners will appreciate this too. When you're working on that first book
Mhm.
or that first blog post or that first social media post, you do not have a neural network in place to support the experience. You're creating a neural network
Yeah.
around the writing. And because of that, I think there's this big vacuum inside your head that creates the fear, that adds to the fear. It's like, well, your brain is going, I don't know how to do this. Like, you're asking me to do something I don't know how to do,
Yeah.
which is awesome because it requires us to build new neurology in order to support it. So with that first book, you're building your neurology, or the blog post or the social media post. By the second book or the second blog or third, fourth, whatever, pick a number, you've got the network in place
Mm.
neurologically, and it becomes that highway. We just keep sending the signals down the highway, and the more we just do it, the easier it gets to make it happen. And so that's why I recommend just keep taking action. It's
Mhm.
maybe imperfect action is better than no action for your brain and for the completion of your book.
And that's such great advice. I mean, I think it's been about 5 years, and what the book that I'm actually writing has sort of zigzagged, but the
Yeah.
same sort of thread all along the way. And even to your point, I remember I just emailed you what, like 3, 4 days ago. I'm like, okay, I got the format. I got the format. I finally got the format. Because I did so much, but I couldn't hold it in my hand. Like I wrote so much, but I just didn't feel good about how I was displaying the information. I didn't think that people would actually understand the word diarrhea coming out of my mind and onto paper. And
Yeah.
so I know that it had to have some sort of structure. And I finally got the structure that feels good in my gut. And my husband always laughs, like, because my husband and I, we always go with my gut, because we'll be making decisions and my husband will be like, what does your gut say? I'm like, this feels good. And I didn't get that feeling yet and then I was so excited. And you were like the first one I emailed. And I'm just like, because and so now, even there's a couple of people that I kept on like, okay, I'm going to give you a chapter, because I have my mentor Robbie. I don't know if you met her, but been promising her to like to send something, but I just, in my gut it didn't feel right. So now I'm excited, and I have, and it is that process. It's that experience of like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but without the that like format, I just felt I was like pushing out chapters arbitrarily. And so now that I have the format, I've actually have in my calendar the dedicated time that I'm gonna put in it, and it feels good. Where before I was kind of blowing off some of the times because I still didn't have the direction. It's like I'd have this map that I couldn't see. Like I was like, I know I have this map, but where is it going? And most people that know me, I don't even care, I'd still go. And that's actually what I was doing, I was still writing, but so now it's kind of like, yeah, it feels good. I have people in place, and now I can actually share this stuff, which is really exciting, and I can actually hold it in my hand. So, yeah, I know that I'm gonna be able to push it out within a year. Like my goal is by the end of this year, it's gonna be done, and
Yeah.
so in people's hands. So I'm excited
Oh,
to go along. So teach people about what is the most sort of funniest excuses that you've heard from people that you've worked with, that because you do such a
oh,
great job about like the even when we talk, I'm like, thank you for kicking my butt or slapping me across the face, like in such a nice way. And so I'm curious, like what are the most funniest excuses that people have um said to you because they haven't gotten to like specific goals?
um, gosh, I don't know if there are any kooky ones. There are some real legitimate ones. I mean, that's maybe the backside of the question is
Hmm.
sometimes there are some really good reasons why you aren't getting to your book. And it's okay because there's this thing called divine timing. And the book will emerge exactly at the perfect time. Like even with me, with that 13 years for that first book,
Mm.
no small children were hurt because the book took that long. I didn't, I probably lost a lot of opportunity, but I mean, I look at my life now and I am so incredibly fulfilled. It's hard to imagine anything better, and probably the universe has that figured out. But I hear everything. Like I had one client whose brother got shot, and he had to spend a lot of time in the hospital with his brother, and that's why he
Oh my
wasn't
God.
working on his book. I let him
Yeah.
off the hook for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a pass.
Well,
That's a
that's a
pass.
pass. Another client, her partner's daughter had been in an abusive marriage, and she came to live with them with her two kids, and life just went
Yeah.
crazy, with all of that. And I thought,
Mm.
yeah, okay, that's a good reason. that's
Yeah.
that's a good reason for not getting to your book.
And
Often there are launches, product launches, and things like
mhm.
that.
So do you think that because these people ended up in these situations that like you're calling the divine, that it's actually putting them in a situation that gives them more context or content for their books that actually give them what they need to make the book even better? Like,
Yeah.
because I am a strong believer when it comes to, I don't know, serendipity, the divine, the universe, stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, like do you
Synchronicity, apparent synchronicity.
synchronicity?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think so. I
Hmm.
think so. I mean, when it takes a long time to write a book, or a perceptively long time,
Mm,
that's maybe another thing to discuss, is that we live in a world where it is very easy to find invitations to get your book done in a week or a
mm,
month, or come to my 4-day weekend and we'll get your book finished. And that seems to be in the atmosphere right now, is that,
mm,
well, if you can't get your book written in 3 weeks, then what's wrong with you? Like, you should be able to get a
mm.
book
The
written in 2 weeks.
pressure,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I don't feel that's fair. I don't Most people can't do that. Like
Mm,
99% of the population can't. I would never want to, for that very reason. And you really alluded to that with your story about finding the right combination. It's
mm,
like a lock, you're kind of
yeah.
working on the combination for that lock. And usually that takes some thinking and
Mhm,
reflecting and meditating quite often, and just integrating and processing, and with heart and soul and body. And it's a full body experience to write a book. And so if you're trying to crank it out in a month, you're missing the opportunity to think into what the book wants to be as well. And like, it's not a race usually. I mean, I have had some clients with publishing deadlines where we had to really giddy up and get it
mhm,
going. But for most of us, it's good that it takes a bit longer, because life happens.
mhm,
And once you start working on that book, you're looking at your life through the lens of the book. And this I hear from all of my clients is, oh my goodness, the most interesting thing happened the other day, and that's going in the book. Or when X happened, I got a chance to really look at how I have been presenting things in my book, and I think I need to fine tune that, because I learned something that makes my understanding deeper, and now I've got to shift what I was going to say in the book. So
mhm.
it's a personal transformational journey to write a book. So why would you want to rush that?
That is so true. And that's actually just recently has happened to me. Like a lot of stuff right now that's going on in my life, um, just there is making it into the book. So
That's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's very cool. And it's interesting because I didn't think of it in that way until you just said that. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I was like a holy crap moment for me.
Well, oh,
It's
good.
like,
Well,
yeah.
and there's a fine line, though, because
Mhm,
we can keep waiting for life to happen to go into the book for a very long time. Like, at some point, you have to take a stand for the book and go on to publication. Because
mhm,
what I have also seen is people take so long to write the book that they're writing a completely different book now. Like, they have evolved so much that they don't get to publication, because it is a process of refinement, always
mhm.
in connection with their life. And I mean, we're always going to be evolving. So at some point, that snapshot of your life that is that book that you're writing now, you need to cut it off and
Yeah,
say,
it's a
okay, there's another
double-edged
book after
sword.
this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can write 10 books,
Mhm.
or 100.
Yeah, and I find too that just with technology and stuff, it made books more accessible to a lot more people when it comes to like the audiobooks. Like they're still, just that you can actually listen to it as opposed to read it. And me personally, I'm out walking 2, 3 times a day just with the dog and stuff like that. And so I'm constantly listening to books and podcasts and all of these things. And it's great. It was a game changer because there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to read, but I didn't have as much time to get to the end of it. And so it's a beautiful thing that technology has happened. And so are there things as a writer or an editor, like tools that maybe you can share, that new technology that are out there in your experience that are great or not great? Um, yeah.
Well, the big one is AI. Everybody's talking about writing, let's write a book with AI, um, which I don't recommend, by the way, for a lot of reasons. One of which is there's AI is getting better and better all the time, of course, and it still seems to me to be mechanical and doesn't quite make sense. The logic isn't always there. So the reading experience can be fluffy and not great. And after all, we're doing this for thought leadership often. We this is a part of your reputation and a way to support your business as much as it is a contribution to humanity. But I think AI is still not quite there, and it doesn't have the heart. Um,
Mhm.
AI doesn't see people the way you see others, and so that spark of soul is missing. But also there are legal issues, and there are some court cases working their way through in the United States anyway, where so AI is scraping the internet looking for
Mhm.
content, and now who does that content really belong to? If that content was put somewhere online by a well-meaning editor, for example, who edits using AI, I do not, I never will. Then that content gets picked up and put in somebody else's book. Well, that sounds like copyright infringement to me, So there are court cases that are still being resolved. And in fact, my summit this year, I have an attorney coming to address that very issue of AI and book writing because
Mm.
there are lots of legal issues involved with it. Amazon requires you to confirm whether or not AI was used in the creation of the book. So, and not that they're going to say you can't post it if you used AI somehow in the creation of the book, but you have to declare it now so
Mm.
that it's not.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. But that's what I would say is, AI is a great tool. It's great for book outlining. I have colleagues who use it to outline their books, and it's a great tool for that. If you have the right prompts, not for the writing, but for the structure, it can be really great for that as a great tool. I have a client in China who is writing a book in English. He wrote it in Mandarin and then ran it through an AI translator. Don't do
Didn't,
that.
yeah, didn't translate well.
Don't count on that. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounded like a great idea, but now it's going to cost him a lot of money to fix it, right? Like
Mm.
it might have been
Yeah.
less expensive to use a translator, like an actual human translator.
Mm.
I don't know.
And
I don't know. But,
what is your thoughts on like talk to text for that?
I think talk to text is great. I
Yeah.
have a lot of clients who are great talkers and really comfortable speaking their thoughts,
Yeah.
but the language processing with writing, it doesn't work so well. I mean, it's just
That's
and it's
me. That's me.
it's not wrong. It's like your area of brilliance is
Hmm.
something other than the conventional writing, and probably you had a grade 4 teacher who didn't help somewhere along the line and said, well, what is this? I have a lot of clients with that actually who were told by a teacher that you're a lousy writer, give up. You can't do this.
Hmm.
And actually their writing isn't so bad, but they've been carrying around this belief, thank you, teacher, that they're a terrible writer for years. And so
Hmm.
that has a self-esteem impact. And it's not true. Again, another story that's not true. We're on a
Yeah.
writing continuum. Like, here's the thing. we're each of us is somewhere on this writing continuum. It's endless either way, and there's nowhere to get. And so the more we measure ourselves by how well we write, the more we beat ourselves up for the fact that we're not way at the other end of the continuum where we're
Mm,
supposed to be, or where that
mhm,
grade 4 teacher said we were supposed to be. And it's just not true. You hire an editor. Like you don't have to be the world's greatest writer to write a book. But
mhm,
you should, ideally hire an editor to help you out. But I love the talk to text because I think it takes advantage of a person's natural brilliance.
mhm,
Because if you're brilliant at just speaking what's in your heart and your mind, then go with that. Don't try and beat yourself up and try to fit into this box of being a writer. You're still a
mhm,
writer. It makes it onto
mhm.
print. That's writing. But and it will still probably need some editing. Most of
Yep.
most of us need a little editing with how we speak. But yeah,
I
use your
think
strengths.
I think every human needs editing. Right? We're like even going back to the fear in our mind, like that needs editing.
Yeah, yeah.
So so
I love that.
teach me about you were mentioning the summit, your summit. What is that about? I mean, it's the
Oh,
first time hearing about it.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry I haven't told you about it sooner. It is one of my absolute favorite things I do every year. This will be
Mm.
our seventh one this year.
Oh, wow.
It's, yep, 4 days of speakers on book writing inner work. So I have a full day of speakers addressing issues in inner work. And Tree, you should be on the summit next year because
Yeah.
obviously you have a lot to add around that conversation of how do we prepare ourselves to be the funnel for the book? Like
I love
before we
it.
even
Yeah.
write, yeah, it's got
Hmm.
nothing to do with writing. It's just like that
Self,
internal,
self.
the
Yeah.
program. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a full day of that. And then the next day is we progress to book writing. So I have speakers who talk about different ways to write a book
Mm.
and techniques in book writing and techniques in writing.
Hmm.
And then we have a full day of publishing. So I have speakers, different publishers who come and talk about their brand of publishing and the differences between the kinds of publishing and Amazon.
Awesome.
I know,
This is awesome.
I know it's just, I just love it. I always learn something and I go for, like I bring, heart-centered people to my stage. And that's one of the things that sets the summit apart from other summits, maybe, is that I am
Yeah.
really looking for people who come from the heart rather than just the head. And let's
Mm.
write our book and in 3 days and make $100,000 and become an
Yeah.
Amazon bestseller tomorrow. Like there's a place for that, but I'm not that. Like that's
Well, and that's
like
interesting that you say that because that's the one thing I said to you that like I met you, we got on the Zoom the first call and within 5 minutes I was like, I said, I got to be honest with you. I was terrified because I thought that you were going to be what you just described, the brain and you were heart centric.
uh,
And so my nervous system just went like, oh, she's my peeps. Like, because I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be, you're an editor, you're a writer. And I
yeah,
thought this is just going to be a brainiac kind of like thing. But then within
yeah.
the first 5 minutes of meeting you, I was like, oh, yeah.
Thank you.
And I remember saying
Yeah,
that to you. So I love
yeah,
that you're talking about the summit and that you're bringing people on board that are very much like-minded with you, spiritually, mentally,
yeah.
probably physically, like just the energetically.
Oh
So,
yeah, body
so
workers.
when is this summit?
It is April 22nd to the 25th, and we do it every year. It'll probably be next April, but April seems
Yeah.
to be the best month for it. I'm also doing an event in June called
Well, hold on.
so sorry, go ahead. Yes,
Where is this?
online
Oh, okay.
on Zoom. Yeah, and I'll get you the link for the
Yeah, we'll have
register
all
to
the links in
register.
the show notes. We'll have
Yeah, that'd
all
be
the, yeah, it's like,
awesome.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, well, and that's partly why I do these events is, and
Mhm.
sorry, that just to come full circle, the last day is book marketing. It's all about book marketing. But
Okay.
again, doing it from um, a loving place, if I can put it that way. Like,
Yep.
yes, let's be strategic and let's do it effectively, and we can still do it without raping and pillaging the world. Like, like we
Yeah,
can do it
yeah.
in an aligned way. So yeah, but
Awesome.
that's why I do it is there was this real vacuum in the book space that I identified. And
Mhm.
I'm a really sensitive person. I used to be called oh, I can't remember what my family called me, but hypersensitive. Why are you so
Mm,
sensitive? Well,
mm,
there was something wrong with being
mm,
sensitive at the time. And actually, it's one of my super skills. Isn't it great that I'm so sensitive? Now I
mm,
know that, but what I found in the book space, especially as a working author myself, was
mm,
it felt harsh to me. And
mm.
the editors that I hired, God bless them, they were technically very proficient, and it was a soulless experience for me to be edited. An unfriendly experience, and I don't want to provide that in life for other people. Like, I love being an editor, and
Mhm.
I love bringing some heart into that experience so that it can be this flourishing, exciting, wonderful experience for people to become an author.
Mhm.
It's a big deal in my
Well,
world to be an author.
and also a safe space. Like I
Bingo.
find, yeah, like I find that because the space that you're creating, there's no ego. So there's room for vulnerability. There's room for people to just write about what they want to write and express how it is that they want to express and be in the energy of the divine or whatever it is that um yeah, it's really really cool space to be, and even to be writing and to have that support. Like I was telling my best friend, just like I have a very small circle of people um that I take feedback from, right? And that I think it's important that people build that, just that small group of people, because I find with a lot of even clients that they're getting feedback from all kinds of different spaces, and all of a sudden it's like they're this punching bag, and well, that's what they feel like. That's not what they are, but that's what it feels like to them, and so they're not sure what information to believe or to trust, and so they're running in on all of these different directions, and they're not getting anywhere because they're getting feedback from all kinds of different resources, whereas most people that are just randomly giving feedback, it's out of their own fear, right? Because they're like afraid of, oh, well, no, like you can't write that or you can't do that. Oh, there's so many other books out there that have that same information or whatever, what have you, where that's out of their own fear. I always joke, I was talking to my dad one time, and this is a dramatic version of what I'm talking about. So my dad's like, "Oh, so what are you doing on the weekend?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to get a massage." And he's like, "Well, what do you wear for a massage?" And I'm like, just my underwear." He's like, "Well, aren't you afraid the massage therapist is going to stab you in the back?" And I'm like, I started laughing, but he was serious. He was like, because
Wow.
he was in fear, right? But he's never gone for a massage. He's an old school guy. Like
Yeah.
he knows nothing about kind of those things.
Yeah.
So I was laughing. I said, "Yeah, Dad, like this guy's going to lose his 30-year career and go to jail because I'm the one, me. Like I'm the random client out of probably thousands that he's had over the last 30 years." And he's
Oh,
like, "Yeah, she's the one I'm going to ruin my
yeah.
career over." Like just so, yeah, it's just funny how people say things. Like he didn't think about it, but he was in fear because I'm like the only person, like family, that he has really, right? So it's like fear comes from all kinds of different places.
That's such an important point too. What comes to mind when you say that is this issue of being afraid of how people will react to your book once it's published, right?
Hmm.
And let's say right up front, there will be people who do not like your book.
Oh,
Get over it. Yeah, get
yeah.
over it.
Oh,
There
yep.
are going to be people out there, they pick up your book and they go, "Oh, I don't get it," or whatever, but they're not your target audience. They're not
No,
the
it's
people
not.
you're here to serve.
Well,
So just
yeah.
get over it. Just get beyond way that. It's whether the people that you're here to serve with that book resonate with it and appreciate it. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that I always teach, and I love that. I love that you brought this up because it's a very, very important thing for just humanity in general.
Yeah.
That like one thing that I teach a lot when I'm talking is that um every time that I go in to do like public speaking, I know, I know that 20% of those people are not going to like me right off the bat, right? 20% of these people are just not going to like me because I either look like an ex that they didn't get along with, a sister they didn't get along with. Maybe they're there because somebody dragged them there. Maybe they're just not in a great mood. Maybe the content isn't what they thought that they were going to want to hear. So I walk into anything knowing that 20% are just not going to like me. But I also walk in knowing that 20% are going to love the shit out of me because because like I might look like their best friend. I might look like a sister that they get along with. I might look like their partner or whatever, or they just might like, oh, she looks cool. Like I don't know. And then the other 60% is going to be like, eh, right? And that's true if for everything in life, whether you're writing a book, whether it's your clothes, right? Like think about your closet. 20% are probably,
Yeah.
maybe brand new stuff still with tags fell to the bottom of your closet. The other 20%, you wear the crap out of it.
Yeah.
The other 60%, right? That analogy can go upon
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, like if whatever anybody's doing in life, and when it comes to fear, like you want to take a step back and look at this analogy. Because if you're
Yeah.
in fear of the lower 20%, you got to remind yourself of the upper 20%. And
Exactly.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because that lower 20% is always going to be there.
Yep. And you're not here to convince them.
No,
That's
they're
not
not.
your job, is to convince
Nope.
them how great you are. They don't waste your time on those
Nope.
people.
And it's funny too, even business owners that I work with, they focus on the lower 20% of their employees. And I'm like, no, you got to focus on the top 20 because what happens is when you focus on the top 20, some of the 60% will move over to the 20 and the 20 turns into 30. So
Right.
yeah, so
I
look
love
at
that.
Swifties. She focuses on her Swifties, not the haters. And the
Yeah.
Swifties grow.
Yeah.
Not
Yes, it's true.
Mhm.
There will always be haters.
Always.
It, in fact,
Always.
that first book of mine was a novel about a woman's experience of an abusive relationship. And I
Mm.
can remember really good a friend of mine at the time, after it was published, she read it and she looked at me and she said, "Well, I don't get it. Like,
Mhm.
what was wrong with her? Why did she stay in an abusive relationship? Like, why? Like, I just don't get it." And
Mhm.
she'd never been in an abusive relationship, so she
Yep.
didn't get it. But how many other people sent me feedback saying, "Oh my gosh, you really nailed it. That was me.
Yep.
That was me in that book. Like, oh, I'm so glad you wrote this book." Well, those are the people that I wrote the book for, not someone who'd never been in an abusive, like,
Yep.
so that was a good lesson for me, and it really didn't bother me a whole lot because I knew she'd never been in an abusive relationship, so she couldn't understand or identify
Mhm.
with the character.
Well, and
That's okay.
thank goodness we're all different though, right? Can you imagine
Yeah.
if we were all the same and you could only write one type of book?
Mm,
That would be
yeah,
so boring.
that
So,
would be boring.
so I know I've taken up tons of your time, but I want to know about, you mentioned something about that you something else that you're doing in June.
Yes, I am. I've got the Inspired Author Intensive, which is another event. It's a 3-day online event, and it's about building your writing skills. It's a
Okay.
book writing skill builder, and it's one full day devoted to writing. Is
Excellent.
I've been teaching and editing for many years, and I've come to realize that's a real need among a lot of my clients, is just not feeling strong in their writing. So we're going to go
Mhm.
through some, not, we'll see how deep we get into grammar. It's not anybody's favorite topic, but there are other things aside from grammar that I'm going to just teach a little bit and have some fun. And then the second day we'll be looking more at book writing. So
Mhm.
let's get comfortable with the writing, and then let's move on to, well, let's apply those skills to book writing, because that's kind of another evolution of the writing. And then the final day is, well, let's unleash you into the world,
Mhm.
and what are you going to do in the world as a result of your book? So the visionary aspect of what's possible with a well-written book.
And can people go to your website and sign up for a newsletter to get updated on all your events?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, go
it's
ahead.
awakeningauthor.com.
Okay.
That's the website, and I'm not sure where that the sign up is. I'll ask my assistant to make sure it gets put on the front page so people can find it. But yeah, that the June event is June 26th to the 28th, and that's
Mhm.
online as well.
Yeah,
And
and
but
I'll
we have
get
all
all
kinds of events.
but I'll get
Yeah.
the individual links for you so that anyone
Okay.
listening to this, that it'll be all be in the show notes. And I highly encourage, I feel very special because I just email you. And I just
You are
like
special, Tree, for sure.
we all are. We all are
Yeah,
special.
yeah.
And so we will have all your information in the show notes, all the links and everything. And I'm very excited. And yeah, if you want me to be a speaker at the
Yeah,
next April, I am totally on board. Um,
awesome.
love what you do. So is there anything else that you want to leave people with? Any last comments or anything?
Just believe in yourself.
Hmm.
You are amazing. Whoever you are, trust in your brilliance, and you're here on purpose. The universe doesn't make mistakes. Some of us grew up thinking we were maybe a mistake. You're not. You've got a brilliant purpose on this planet, and I really encourage everybody to lean into that. Figure out what it is that's showing up every day.
Hmm. And I love that. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to keep it there. So
Okay,
yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for being here.
Such an honor to be on your show. Thank you, Tree.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of The Root of It All with Tree. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But before we go, I just wanted to remind you that you can follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram. And we will be posting motivational quotes and behind the scenes content that you won't want to miss. You can always sign up to come live while we're filming this, or even join us online through Zoom. We always offer open question and answer after each episode that we don't record, so it's all private, but you can get more involved. So sign up for free at businessgrowthresults.com, and we're going to cover all kinds of different topics that you're not going to want to miss. And if you're looking for that one-on-one guidance or help, be sure to book a free screening. You can do that at burlingtonhypnosis.ca or call 905-634-4777. And finally, you can catch our podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.